Not That is back. Yay! It's been a long time since I've done one of these, and these are tricky videos for me to sort of come up with the content for, because I want them to be, you know, a product that I have a lot of both likes and dislikes about, you know, a certain type of product. And then also I try to come up with enough subcategories in these videos to really make it worth your while to watch and, you know, get a lot of information out of it. So I've been thinking about drugstore eyeshadows for a while and formulating my opinions on some different categories. We're going to talk about singles and like the little palettes, shimmery shadows, matte shadows, baked shadows. I mean, you name it. We're going to try to cover everything here. Let me know your requests on these kinds of videos. I've already done foundation, concealer, and mascara. So outside of those that I've already done, let me know what you would like to see and I'll do my best to deliver that kind of video to you. Also, this is just powder eyeshadows that I'm talking about in this video. There are a lot of brands coming out with new cream eyeshadows, so I thought down the road that may be a video in itself because there's already a lot to talk about for powders. Starting off with baked eyeshadows from the drugstore, and I have a definite favorite where these are concerned. I love the hard candy baked shadows. They're little duos, and in this first part of the video I'm going to be kind of talking singles slash duos, nothing big though. But these are just so great for the formula that they are. I mean, I feel like they're very pigmented and yet they feel very creamy. They're not flaky like is the tendency with a lot of baked shadows, even among high-end brands. I feel like baked shadows, you know, even though they can say, well, you can apply them wet, well, I want them to look good when I use them dry too. The newest one I got, I couldn't believe I hadn't had this one before, but this is called Bad Reputation, and I also love the duo in High Maintenance. If you like taupe, kind of taupe that borders on plum, that's a great one. They're grouped together really nicely, so you could do, you know, your whole eye with just one of these because they give you a dark enough shade to contour with and then a light enough shade to be your highlight or just all over your lid or whatever you want. But these are definitely great drugstore shadows. My Not That is the Maybelline Eye Studio, these little baked duos here. These are a really kind of dry, flaky type eyeshadow. They're easier to manage if you use them wet, but like I said, the hard candy performs well wet or dry. So when I compare these to the hard candy ones, I mean, I can just tell there's a higher quality there. There's a much better formula, so I won't be buying any more of these. Everybody needs a little shimmery shadow now and then. Shimmery, metallic, kind of that shiny look on the eyes, and I really am a fan of these L'Oreal Infallible singles. These are so nice, so easy to work with. I mean, the format, which I've showed in my recent favorites video, but you've got them kind of tamped down there. They're practically like a pigment that's been pressed down. They're not as dry as a lot of, you know, drugstore shadows might be. A little bit pricier for a drugstore single, but they do have some really gorgeous shades. I love Bronze Taupe. For a darker shade that really reminds me of MAC's Beauty Marked, you have Smoldering Plum. And the ones from this line that do have that little bit of shimmer, I mean, they totally shine. They come off kind of creamy, buttery feeling. I think they're great. They last a long time on the eyes. And the one I don't like, the Not That, the Ulta Minerals eyeshadow. And again, this is a small duo. We're kind of talking duos and just those smaller varieties in this part of the video, but I have this one in pink chocolate and was just very disappointed in the amount of pigmentation this had. It looked like it could be a really pretty wearable duo, but you know, it's got that shimmery finish. I really dug through my whole collection to find the worst shimmery eyeshadow, the one that gave me the least bang for the buck, you know, and this one was it. For drugstore matte singles, I've got a couple good kinds to tell you about. Milani not too long ago came out with these, and they have, I mean, it's a full line of eyeshadow, so some are shimmery, but there are quite a few mattes, including shades that you might wear a lot, like a perfect deep dark matte black, also this great matte brown. This is called Brownstone, and just, you know, the kind of basics you might need, but then they also have some crazy colors like this matte hot pink, and you know, they really give off plenty of pigmentation, very high quality for a drugstore shadow, and you're getting a lot of product with these as well. If you can't find them in your stores, I know they are online, at the very least at MilaniCosmetics.com. The other matte kind that I've been really impressed with are the Rimmel Glam Eyes. Again, this is a full line of eyeshadow, so not every single kind is matte, but there are a couple of great matte basics, including Jet Black and Dusk. Now, this is not as black can be. This is kind of like a little step up, like kind of a charcoal charcoal type shade, but very creamy, easy to blend, easy to work with. A lot of matte shades that I've tried, even some high-end ones, they can be kind of dry and difficult to blend. So these are very easy to blend, as are the Milani ones. So I would really recommend those. And as for, you know, drugstore singles across the board that I think are bad matte single products, I really don't have just one kind to tell you about. Like, I may have tried a few CoverGirl dud matte shadows here and there, or, you know, from this or that brand. And I should say that the drugstore as a whole is lacking, I think, in matte eyeshadow selection. So for that reason, and the fact that I haven't found like a consistent flaw in other brands, I don't have a not that to mention for the matte. But I want to give a mention to colorful shadows, because sometimes that can be a challenge to find in the drugstore, really good colorful eyeshadows. And the line I suggest you look to, if that's what you're going for, is NYX, because they really have, I think, the broadest color selection and good quality colors too. I just realized I pulled out like Christmas colors here, but I mean, matte or shimmer, whatever you're going for, this is a gorgeous shade called Wildfire, and it's just a really pretty green. Cherry, if you would ever need red shadow, you know, they've got, and they have a lot of great neutrals, and a lot of brands do, but I think it's the colorful shades from the drugstore that you might have more of a challenge finding. So I wanted to say, you know, look to NYX. If you need that one special shade, they probably have it. And then the drugstore line that I think consistently doesn't produce their colors quite as well is probably CoverGirl. And I've tried plenty of CoverGirl neutral shades that I love. I mean, hello, the Shimmering Sands trio that like everybody owns and loves. I mean, that works really well, and I continue to like that to this day. But with some of their brighter shades, I'm just not so pleased with how they come off. Like, they need to maybe reformulate a little bit. And even in some of their newer quads, some of the colors in those, I'm like, why is the neutral coming off so much better, but this purple or this pink is not working as well? So like these, for example, I've got Meltdown Mauve, Forever Fig. If sheer color is what you want, maybe these are for you, but I'm talking real saturated color payoff. I feel like CoverGirl lacks a bit in that category. Now I want to talk more in palette form, so like trios, quads, and beyond, basically, from the drugstore. And in terms of shimmery metallic colors that I think are consistently great, I would really recommend the Maybelline Eye Studio Quads. I don't hear a lot of people talking about these. I recently blogged about like my favorite ones from this line if you want to get a closer look at even more swatches, but these feel really smooth. The shades pop. They throw in some fun and kind of unexpected groupings of shades, and they're always coming out with new limited edition sets of these as well. They remind me, I've said it before, but a lot of the Lancome Color Design shadows in this kind of highly shimmery metallic formula. So I love those. Kind of an unfortunate thing from Milani, because I do like their shadow, but I don't like the way they've packaged it. And you know, if it's not something you're going to reach for, what's the point in having it? And I tend to not reach for these so much because they're just hard to use. These little strips, these are the Runway Eyes, and they're teeny tiny strips of shadow here, and it's very difficult to get a brush on there unless it's a really small brush and just pick up one color at a time. And you can see they're all real different colors from one another. And I like this one. This is called Catwalk, and I've got others, and they just kind of sit there because I'm not drawn to use them because they're kind of tricky to use. Now, drugstore matte shadow palettes. I don't know if you're familiar with Physicians Formula's matte quads, but I never seem to find them in my drugstores, but I do always see them at Ulta. And this one I have is called Canyon Classics, and these are actually quite nice. Really non-flaky, nicely pigmented shadows. The whole collection that they have of these matte quads are pretty neutral, like pretty safe colors. They've actually been around for a while, but if you haven't checked them out, you might want to hit up Ulta.com or your local Ulta store. I would also mention the Wet n Wild I Heart Matte palette, but that was like limited edition, and I want to stick to things that I know you can find. I wasn't sure whether to mention this next one or not because it's not a purely matte palette, but it does include some great matte shades, and sometimes that's what you want, is just a balance, you know, in a quad, to not have all four shimmery shades, but have one, you know, or two deeper matte colors that can kind of anchor the look and provide some contrast. So I wanted to mention the quads from Flower Beauty because I think they're all around good quality. This is a new brand out at Walmart. Walmart. It's the Drew Barrymore line. And this one in Foxy Browns has a delightful dark matte brown there that's really great. These colors are great too, and so is that one though. I've also picked up this quad in Face the Gray, and here you have two matte shades. One is a gray and one is like kind of a dark bluish purple shade. For those who are saying, you know, just give me some matte, I don't need the whole thing matte, I wanted to tell you about that. Now for the matte palettes that are not so good, and again, I wish there were more that I could try and there were more purely matte palettes out there. There are some like L'Oreal quads here and there and some CoverGirl quads where I feel like the matte shades are lacking, but it's not a consistent enough flaw for me, because then there are some that I really like. So I can't say it's a total, you know, don't try this kind of situation. But I don't know if you guys have noticed the line called Profusion. I usually see them around the holidays or just periodically. They'll come out with new little palettes at the drugstore. Here you can see it says Profusion right there. Oops, maybe you can see it if I don't blind you. Profusion on the front. This palette says Profusion on the back. These are not purely matte palettes, but they do contain both matte and shimmery shades. And what I've noticed about this brand, and I've tried other palettes that they've put out, and they do some gorgeous metallics. Really pretty like shimmery shades. They've got that down, but the matte shades are almost like non-existent in some of these new things they've put out. The shimmery shades are nice. The matte shades you can hardly see, and it's the same deal with, you know, this palette. They've got a few matte colors in there, and it's like they just give me nothing. I see these a lot in Walgreens, and I thought it might be worth mentioning because I don't hear a lot of people talk about these, and it might be the type of thing that like you question and they're cheap, so you think maybe I should go ahead and buy it. I don't think, you know, it's a really worthwhile purchase if like half the palette doesn't really provide any sort of shadow boost, any good pigmentation. Just talking about all around eyeshadows, best and worst, my try this is definitely Wet n Wild. I'm actually wearing this palette today. This is the blue Had Me at Hello kit, but they've got these great 8-pan palettes. They've got multiple trios that are so user-friendly. The matte shades are good. The shimmery shades are good. My complaint has always been, put out more please, give us more shadows to play with. Tremendous amount of color payoff, and I don't think you can beat the price tag either. I mean, you're paying several dollars for a trio, less than $5 for these. It's just a really awesome deal. I've been singing the praises of these for a while. This is not news to a lot of you probably, but still a lot of people who will contact me and say, you know, I hadn't tried Wet n Wild for years because a long time ago I thought their products were awful, but things have changed and their eyeshadows are definitely great. My overall not that for eyeshadows is the NYC, primarily the little palette things that they sell. I don't have one still here to show you, but they have several shadows and like a base and a cream illuminator thing. They don't perform as well as the new trios that the brand has come out with, and the trios aren't even that good. So it's kind of like, I mean, we're talking chalky, very little color payoff, inconsistency among shades. One shade might be better, another shade might not show up hardly at all. Just tricky to work with and flaky too. So that's it, guys. I hope this was useful to you. I feel like eyeshadow can be one of the most tempting things at the drugstore. I mean, you know, there's so many shades. You want to try something new all the time, but maybe this will save you a few bucks down the road if you know what to steer clear of. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give me your requests and have a great day. Bye.